you so much for coming to the podcast. I know you're a very, very, very busy man and a serial entrepreneur. So let's kick this off. Why don't you give us a bit of an intro about your journey? How has your career journey been? Give us a little bit of details into how you started, where you started, and how did you become a serial entrepreneur?
Okay. So I am a software engineer. So I think that for software engineers, that's kind of natural because we like to build things. And the way that we take these things that we build, the software, to a lot of people, a lot of customers is through a company, through a startup. So almost 15 years ago, I started doing that. Um, After I left university, I was a university professor in computer science. And for the last 15 years, I've been doing startup, one startup, two startups, up to five. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I started um, like doing e-commerce for um, auto parts. Then I did another company in the travel space, then in the grocery space, then in tech, and finally I'm doing fintech.
Wow, that is such breadth of industries that you've operated in. So, has all of this been B2B or some of it has been B2B to C, B2C? Is there a particular liking that you have for any particular business model or
Oh
space?
yeah,
Hmm.
and like as I think this is also like I don't know if this applies to a lot of software engineers, but um, in this case, I think well we or I love B2C.
Mm,
I love to see my product be like to see my product in a lot of users' hands, and to like and that for me is like generating a lot of impact, and that for me is very rewarding. So the curious thing is that the majority of these companies I've started doing B2C and ended up doing B2B.
yeah. Is there a reason why that had to happen? I mean, when as a VC, we always think, I mean, B2C, we're all consumers at the end of the day. So it is a huge market, but we always think, oh, B2B could be B2C could be tough.
Hmm.
If the companies could pivot into B2B, it's more stable revenues and it's
Yeah.
so yeah, how why did you pivot and is this the same reason?
Well, you said it yourself. So it's a very complex industry, and okay. So in these companies, we pivoted into B2B when one of two things happened. One, we were running out of money, or
Mhm.
two, suddenly like the product that you built for B2C applies perfectly to B2B.
Yeah.
And this B2B comes to you and say, okay, I will pay you 10 times more than what one user,
Hmm.
one B2C user would pay you. So why don't you like basically do an API of your product
Hmm.
and give it to me? Um, so the distribute like basically the margins, the revenue that you get from them is higher. The effort of selling um, somehow becomes less at that particular
Yeah.
moment,
Yeah.
because then when you want to scale B2B, there is another it's another story. But at that pivotal moment, then you say to yourself like, why not?
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. So if if someone comes to you, I know even I've come to you for advice, startup advice. If someone comes to you, a young entrepreneur, another software engineer, and says they want to do a B2C product or a B2B product, what would your advice be from your experience? I mean, I'm specifically looking for what are those key challenges or key things that they need to look for and really track so that they know, hey, this is the moment that I need to pivot. So what would that signs be that no one's looking at but should look at?
Yeah. So that science and uh, a lot of people, including the YC people, call
Hmm.
it like product market fit, and there is no clear definition of product
Yeah.
market fit. I think the clearest definition that I've heard, and it was one from one of the YC mentors, was um, you definitely there is no definition of product market fit, but you can feel it the moment you have product market fit.
Mm,
And I've seen like like some patterns there. The first one is that everything starts to break. So your product starts to fail because of a lot of users or a lot of um, um, yeah like load into your infrastructure,
mm,
and everything starts to fall apart. That's one, and it's a good sign. For an engineer, it's a bad sign, but like from a business point of view, it's great. And two, um, you start somehow, the effort that you put into distributing your product um, starts to, I call it, multiply itself somehow, and you don't know why. Somehow you know that if you do X marketing, or if you do X effort to distribute your product, you will get to Y customers, but then you're obtaining Y plus 100, 1,000, something like that. So I think at that moment you realize, okay, yeah, this thing is picking up. Um, when that doesn't happen for a long time, you start asking yourself, what's going on? And like you can so that not happening is what like a lot of people call like us looking for product market fit, or like zombie state companies. And
mm.
with that, when that doesn't happen, that is very frustrating from an entrepreneur perspective. Well, from a mindset perspective, and from a professional perspective, from a business perspective. So you start basically pivoting and doing like things to shake the business. At that particular moment, basically not having that feeling for a long time while you run out of money is what takes you to like these pivotal moments. Um, if that makes sense.
That was extremely counterintuitive, but I think that was super interesting. And I completely understand what you mean by that. I mean, things need to move fast. Things, if they're moving fast, there's so much load and inbound into your system that your tech architecture can't handle it. If that's not
Hmm.
happening, it's not a really good sign. So that's fantastic.
Exactly.
Um, okay, you touched on something very important that I want to also deep dive into. You're not just a YC entrepreneur, you've also been through entrepreneurs first.
Yeah.
How, what does it mean for someone to get into these programs? I mean, yes, YC is one of the biggest names. It gives you so much brand value and so much validation just going through that program. But sometimes I feel founders think just getting into that program is good enough and then everything else will happen. How do you see it? And if anyone wants to get into these programs, how should one assess it? And how should one really leverage that? Because I often see founders, oh, I'm a YC founder, and that can't mean everything. That's just one thing, but there's more to it. I'd love to know your perspective around that.
Totally. You're totally right. And there is this thing that, so in my own terms, some people think that getting to an accelerator is the end game. It is just the starting point. So regarding accelerators, like the basically that first statement is not true. This is not the end game. This is just a starting point. And I like, so independently of what EF, like Entrepreneur First, is, or YC, or is, or means to entrepreneurs. Um, I like what the YC founders like started, like from the beginning of the program. They started telling us that particular thing, and they're very data driven, and they tell you, okay, so you're here, but X amount of companies, X% of companies don't make it from here. So um, even I remember this one just because I am liking this Series A path with my current company. But 50% of companies that raise a Series A don't make it till the end. So it's still like a long game, a hard game, and like a great percentage of the people that go to YC aren't gonna um, make it in the sense that they're gonna sell a company or be a unicorn or like do IPO, etc., because success is different for different people. But success in terms of selling your company, or getting to an IPO, or being like a immensely profitable company, it's very hard. And it's like, again, from YC founders and also in EF, like there's a small chance that you make it, but it is the journey and like the fun in making these things that makes you keep going. Regarding EF and YC, I think that, and accelerators as a whole, I think they, they, they also have their time into entrepreneurs. I mean, um, you accelerators are not the greatest thing, depending on what the entrepreneur is. For some entrepreneurs, YC may not give them like the value that it gives to other entrepreneurs. Also for EF, um, and I think that what I've gotten the most from, particularly in the case of Entrepreneur First, I was during a time in my life where I was moving to the UK. So the best thing for me, and it was EF, for because it accelerated my the creation of my network, the finding of a co-founder in a place where I've never been. So that's that accelerator worked for me because I was because it was the good timing, because I was looking for that. And I know that that accelerator could give it to me, but like it doesn't mean that by getting to EF I will build like a successful company. There's a lot of factors that you have to take into account. In the case of YC, so we wanted to also get into like a bigger worldwide network of US investors and US entrepreneurs. And at the same time, we're also looking for some advice on how to scale a company in in such a time like this, like less less VC money into startups, um, of like fears of recession, all of these kind of things. We were kind of wondering, like, okay, like we're confused. Uh, Growth at all costs doesn't exist anymore. What is there to do? So we were looking for that, and that timing was perfect, and that's where we said, okay, YC is perfect for us because of that. But it's only 3 months, and 3 months, it's like a day in startup life. Um, and yeah, those are my thoughts on accelerators.
Wow, super, super helpful. Thank you so much for that, Camilo. Now, out of the five startups and five industries that you've experimented with and built companies in, the last one is fintech. Also, given the timing, given the geopolitical risks and the tensions and the looming recession or the unstable market, is there a reason why you chose to disrupt the fintech industry at this point in time?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't think that I did it. I did that on purpose. It
Hmm.
would be like very genius of me, but I'm not that guy. So basically, what we started observing is that in Latin America, particularly where I'm from, um, my parents and like our previous generation, and even in this generation, a lot of people save money in US dollars. Uh, they the only way to do that, like particularly in Colombia, is by going to a bureau of exchange and buying notes, like bills, physical money. There's no other option. There's no uh, magically banking infrastructure, banking experience that lets you manage your money in stronger currency. And the problem for us is like the currency devaluation problem. Uh, in these countries, uh, the currency devaluation is more than 10, 20, 50% year currency devaluation. That means that your money loses value against the stronger currencies every year. And like a way of saving, as a way very popular way of investing, even for people, is uh, saving money in stronger currency. So what we started doing is like creating accounts, virtual accounts for people, so that we could streamline that process of being able to manage my money in a stronger currency in a country where currency devaluation is very, very high. We started, I mean, it was like a personal experience that like it mixed with, we were looking into like the crypto space and the fintech space, because we were looking at something that could be also massive and B2C. So we were looking for those particular components, and that
Mm-hmm.
was one particular problem that caught our attention, and that when we did an MVP, it responded very well. And in less than 6 months, we had users in the thousands, like
Wow.
managing money in the millions of dollars. And we said, okay, yeah, this is the first time that we feel like a market fit so fast. Um, that what we call a market, like basically
Mm-hmm.
you start, you don't know why you're growing, but you're still growing. That's when we decided to go all in for this company. So yeah, so we created Litio. Uh, it's spelled it is spelled Littio, and it's a neobank specifically tailored for people in countries where currency devaluation is high. So it's a full banking experience, exchanging your money to your local currency and saving your money into stronger currencies, borrowing money, also investing your money in stronger currencies.
Wow, what a fantastic proposition. I really, really like it. Also, I think LATAM could be a beachhead, especially Colombia could be a beachhead market, expand into entire LATAM, and then also go into the African countries where this problem exists. So
Okay.
I think the market is super huge. Um,
Also
Very
Middle
interesting.
East,
Oh,
also
yes.
Southeast Asia,
Hmm.
also some Eastern Europe. The
Eastern Europe,
problem in Turkey,
definitely.
for example,
Hmm.
is like
Also,
it's very,
Lebanon. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Lebanon as well. And yeah, you're right.
A super huge market, all the very, very, very best for that to scale, and for your Series A track to go to IPO. So hopefully you go to Nasdaq and ring the bell there.
Yeah,
um,
remember, 50% of companies still bad after this.
but I'm an optimist.
Yeah,
Okay, so now really moving into the meat of the podcast. So let's get into the first question for you is, of your 15 years of building, what has been the most pivotal challenge that you faced? And also tell us, why is it so important that others have to hear that story? And after that, we'll sort of go into what did you do? How did you sort of deal with that challenge? How did you come out the other side? Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so I think the biggest challenge that I thought is, I call it, keeps keep your feelings in check always. And I came to realize that only last year when we went into YC. Um, gave us this lecture. One of the imagine there are 8 main lectures. One of the 8 main lectures was emotional intelligence. I was like, okay, why are you not giving me a lecture on product market fit, which is what I'm trying to get, or product led growth, or retention, or like those kind of things, or whatever. And then there is this. They gave us this framework, uh, and where you got to differentiate uh, your feelings from beliefs. And basically, your actions are driven either by your feelings or your beliefs. Um, when your actions are driven by your feelings, it becomes like a very volatile kind of decision or action. It's when uh, and I went back to my first startup and said, okay, so my first startup failed because I got into a lot of conflicts with my co-founder. And I started to analyze all of those conflicts, and all of those conflicts were created and generated by feelings. Um, feelings, like ranging from you didn't include me in the conversation with this customer to uh, you're telling me that I cannot build technology because you criticized my architecture, or you don't think that I'm working because I didn't uh, tell you that I was working on that, or that I'm to X, Y, Z, and then everything started to basically I started connecting the dots. And the reason why that first company failed was because I was not keeping my feelings in check, and that was very powerful to me to realize that uh, everyone tells you like, okay, business is business, don't make it personal. It's very hard, but it was the first time that I had a framework that I could basically identify the difference between a feeling and a belief. Um, so if I basically put or kept my feelings in check, I understood that basically I was feeling that anger or like that frustration because only because of a feeling, but like if I remember that the belief of building a company is more than basically the feeling that it gets from hearing your co-founder telling you this or that. So I think another would have been the, the, the case of this company. And then in my second company, again, the so the first company, the part marketplace that we created is a marketplace for auto part dealers. It failed because of us, because of the founders. Second company, um, we did very good. Uh, the story that I told you about, we started B2C selling low-cost airline tickets, and then a B2B company from Europe came to us, knocking on the door and saying, "Okay, I will buy you 1,000 tickets per day instead of like the 100 tickets per day that you sell." Then we became a B2B business, uh, and the story was great. And we got like an interview to YC, and we were doing amazing. And then conflict started arising, like doubting your co-founders, like doubting that you could get more customers, doubting that um, a lot of things, and like a lot of like these kind of conversations with my founders where I was talking more from my feelings and not from what I believe the company could be, started growing. Um, and at some point, at the tipping point of this company, um, as as a co-founders, we decided that we should split, and that only one of us should continue here because this is a great company, but we cannot find a way of like aligning on what we want this company to be. And for me at that moment, it was like, oh yeah, it was because of customers. It was because we couldn't. So we turned into B2B, and I wanted B2C, or we were not getting the amount of B2B customers that we needed. So I was doubting on the CEO, etc., etc., etc. But it, when I come back to this YC lecture and think about, okay, what were my feelings there? There was a lot of feelings and a lot of anxiety from all of these things that I couldn't differentiate from the belief of building a company. So I believe that like that is what experience gives you unconsciously. But like again, for the first time, I had a framework and I had a way to say, okay, so I gotta be wary of my feelings and always checking like, is this I'm telling you this, or I am angry at you because of a feeling, or because I deeply believe that I should be angry because of something, or I should use this angriness to uh, improve my negotiation, or like in terms of a business, how could I use these feelings in order to get what I want? Um, and that was the most powerful thing I found. I could find example after example in companies, in a few companies. Yeah, that's the
Well, thank you so much for sharing this. I think this is a very, very interesting point because one of the biggest risks, especially in early stage, is founder conflict. And one of the main reasons or the top reasons that companies fail is also founder conflict. And sometimes I think, while it is true to keep your feelings in check, but it's so hard to do that, because your life is tied with your startup. You're spending your personal money, your time, every resource that you have in building this company and ensuring the success of that company. So how can one, or any founder who's in the journey at the moment, how can they really take a pause and then switch? Are there any tips that you have for anyone that's in, very awkward conversations or serious conversations or tough conversations? How do they then take a pause and be objective, or think about the long term perspective versus, really fighting for the small things?
Yeah, that's a great question and a very subjective question. I think there is no right or wrong answer here. I'll tell you my experience. So just going back to the story that I was telling you,
Mm-hmm.
um, every mistake that I have done is somehow related to feelings more than beliefs. Like I felt angry, I felt anxious, and but if I've done it in a different state of mind, for sure I would have taken another decision. Um, And basically, what I understood is what people call experience is that is somehow your unconscious self starts identifying those moments and saying, okay, this has happened before. Don't worry, it's gonna be all right. Um, and then when, when your mindset changes, then you can make another decision. Um, so uh, and the second option, so the first option is doing it by experience, like just trying a lot, and I'm sure that your unconscious self will pick it up. The second is this framework that I told you. And so after that lecture, I every like almost every time, also with my relationships, with friends, with my wife, with my parents, uh, I'm always trying to basically, if I have to take a decision, I go back to myself and I ask myself if this is a feeling or if this is a belief, and then making the right choice. That has helped me like in every aspect of my life. And right now, it is helping me, for example, with the anxiety that is created around doing like another company, because it's the same story. Even though you think like you have 10 more years of experience, or you have done it before, uh, a lot of patterns repeat. Uh, the frustration of like your customer saying that you have a shitty product, or the anxiety from not knowing whether you should increase your marketing spend or not, um, whether you should go and raise money or not because of the of how the um, investment um, landscape is. Um, all of those decisions, all of those questions that I've had like over the past 2 years, I'm trying to apply that learning that I got from this lecture. Uh, so, in summary, you do it one of two ways: either consciously or unconsciously. Unconsciously, it will be there, and that's what experience gives you. And consciously, build a framework, identify
Mm.
your feelings, and try to apply them to every decision.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Okay, the last section of the podcast is, we call it productivity hack tips, how to be better in your professional life or personal life. So, being the busy person that you are there any tools that you swear by that has really given more structure, given you peace of mind, or anything like that? Any tips and tricks?
In tools,
Mm-hmm.
hmm. Well, I use a lot of tools to be
Mm-hmm.
productive, but more than tools, it's like methodologies or
Mm-hmm.
frameworks. I'm a deeply believer in frameworks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so uh, so I try to do this every day. I practice this kind of may sound like cliche, but like organizing your day to day. into buckets in a calendar
Mm-hmm.
for reprioritizing every day. Okay, so there are three things that you can do in a company. So you can execute. That means you can do something. You can code. You can do a model, an Excel model. And you can call customers. You can do something. You can execute. When you're executing, there are simple tasks that basically have like small objectives, and you get into it. And it takes a lot of your time, usually. Like if you're into it.
Yeah.
Another thing that you do is management. Uh, so management is everything related to dividing these tasks into teams. Basically, you call X amount of customers, you call the Y amount of customers, and then we organize these things, and we basically like manage the project of like how many hours are we going to do that, and we plan, and we measure, and we keep like basically what we measure on track. Third, you do strategy. So
Mm-hmm.
you plan, and so that strategy, basically either you do something, or you manage or divide that something into different people, or you plan what to do, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
like that was the beginning. You didn't know what to do. You have to plan. Then you get a co-founder. Now you have to split your tasks, and there's a lot to do, so you have to execute. Um, Out of those three things, you literally can do only two, and
Okay.
sometimes you only can do one. You cannot do the three times, the three things at once. So I try to split my day into like thinking strategically, managing, executing. Be very mindful that the execution part will take a lot of time from my day, and when I have to execute, and when the team is really small, then I go and execute a lot of things. When I have the opportunity to manage, the biggest one of the biggest or one of the things that us software engineers suffer is that we think that managing people is not productive.
Mm.
And as we don't see written lines of code, then we're not productive and we're not doing shit. Oh, sorry, that thing. Uh, Managing is super productive because basically, you know what they say: if you want to go faster, go alone. If you want to go further, then go in a team. Go with a team.
Yeah.
And without management, there is no team. Um, and making your team efficient, again, of course, if you have the fortune to have a team,
Yeah.
um, then spending your time on management is very important. So right now, I would say I do 80% management, 70% management, 30% execution. And some other days I do like some strategy, but then always like shifting my
Priorities for the
attention to
day.
this.
Mm-hmm.
That like basically being aware of strategy, management, and execution has helped me in reprioritizing what I have to do, and being basically mindful of like what I'm doing. Sometimes I'm productive because I my output is this Excel file, this model, this PowerPoint presentation. But I'm also productive when I'm managing people, and when the team um, accomplishes what they want. And I'm also productive when I plan the whole month, and that's also an output. Being aware of that takes away the frustration of I'm
Mm.
not being productive, I'm not doing anything, and that's like called that leads to procrastination. So yeah.
Wow, that is fantastic. I think a lot of people need to hear this, especially founders, entrepreneurs, or anyone in career progression, because we often think the day has gone by and I haven't done anything, but we
Mm-hmm.
miss that there's so much thing happens in the background, and it's a really good framework and a really good mental model to really manage your day effectively. Thank you so much, Camilo. It was wonderful speaking with you. I mean, the kind of stories, the kind of insights that you've brought to the conversation is invaluable. I wish you all the very best for your journey. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Same to you. Thanks, Casey.